Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have another brand new Mattel Jurassic World Dominion set to take a look at here today. This is a set that just went up for sale on Kohls probably a few days back, and I already now have it here to take a look at with you guys. You can see it's a really cool set of basic figures. These are the 12-inch basic figures, and again, there's a lot of cool figures in here, especially if you haven't been buying any of these previously released 12-inch basics. There's a lot of stuff that's in here that is definitely pretty nice, but unfortunately for me, there are only two figures in here that I didn't have prior. But as you can see, we have a Dilophosaurus, we have the Pyroraptor, two different Atrociraptors, Owen Grady, and a Pteranodon. A lot of them, again, like I stated, are repacks, but still definitely a really cool set full of a lot of different really nice 12-inch basics. And then as far as the back of the box goes, you can see the back of the box shows off this really cool kind of sneak peek of all of the different figures that are contained within. I really would have liked to have seen someone else, like even like an Ian Malcolm or something in this set, rather than the same repackaged Owen that we had with the Fallen Kingdom figures. But again, definitely pretty cool, and there's a lot of figures in here. The box is massive, like it is huge. So that is really quite cool. Again, just the entire visual of this box is impressive enough. But let's go ahead, pop the box open, and take a look at the figures contained within. So straight away, we've got our Owen Grady, who clearly is way too tall for this angle of the camera. So on top of that, we also have the Dilophosaurus. Now, both of these figures have been released prior. It's really impressive how huge that Owen Grady is. You don't realize how big that Owen Grady is, really, until you bring in the Dilophosaurus next to it, and then it's just like, wow, that is ridiculous how huge that Owen is. On top of that, though, we also have our Pyroraptor, which also, again, has been released previously, if I could get it to stand. I don't know why it's not wanting to right now. Let's go ahead and try to get it a little bit lower. It's just giving me some problems. There we go. We've also got ourselves a Pteranodon that just smacked Owen right in the face. And then our two new Atrociraptors. And those two are the stars of the show, if you ask me. Now they fell over. Having problems with these guys standing, apparently, but you can definitely see, again, all the different figures that we have here are really cool. That Pyroraptor is gorgeous, definitely a big fan of that, and the fact that I already have that one, I have reviewed it in the past, means that I'm going to be repainting that one at some point soon, so I'll be really excited to see what it looks like with an actual decent paint job on it. The Dilophosaurus is also a figure we've had in the past, and I have actually reviewed that one already a long time ago, and I've already repainted it, and posted a repaint video a few years ago. I believe that one had come out with the Fallen Kingdom line, as that kind of resembles the Dilophosaurus that was in the Lockwood Manor. You also have the Pteranodon that, again, was also released prior. That one not too long ago. I believe that was one of the more recent Pteranodons, but also another figure, again, that I do already have up on the channel for a review, and I've also already repainted. And then you have Owen, who, again, was part of the, big pack of figures that was released with the original Fallen Kingdom line, and I actually believe Owen might have had a standalone release at some point as well. So I have acquired this Owen a few times. I believe I gave one to my son. I already have one in my collection. I don't know what I'll do with this one, but I guess it's just another of the many Owen figures that I have. They're pretty much a gang at this point. And then we have Atrociraptor, Tiger, and Panthera, and they're not the best. I mean, the sculpts are really nice. The paint job's not as nice as the sculpts themselves, but I think the tones of color are really off for Tiger. Like, I don't know why they gave Tiger that reddish coloration, because Tiger has more of like a Lost World kind of Velociraptor, like the tiger striped raptors. That's more what Tiger looks like. Also, again, hence the name Tiger. But for some reason they gave it a reddish coloration here. I don't really have a clue why. Panthera doesn't look too far off. I mean, kind of. It basically looks like what Panthera should look like for a action figure type figure like this. Hopefully at some point in the future they'll release it with more of like a screen accurate paint job, but regardless, we're just kind of babbling here. Let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at all of these right now. Now, a few of these we're only going to take really quick glances over because we have reviewed them in the past, and in fact, the majority of this set we're only going to take quick glances over, but we do have our Owen Grady, and I feel like the likeness of the Owen Grady figure is pretty good. It definitely looks like, Owen from the film has his outfit pretty nicely. It's also very highly detailed, as you can see moving through the figure. Definitely sports a really nice sculpt overall and some pretty decent paint. Potentially, I would say better paint than we get for the dinosaurs of the Jurassic World line, which is sad at the same time as it is impressive. But you also have articulation. You can see we have articulation in the neck, which is definitely nice. You can see you can move it pretty much all over the place. You also have shoulder articulation and elbow articulation, and of course, this stuff can all swivel. So you can see we've got a swivel like that. You have hip articulation as well, so he can get a little bit groovy if he wants to start dancing. We also have some articulation here in the legs as well as the knees, and I think there's wrist articulation. Yep, absolutely. So quite a bit of articulation for our Owen. Again, he is huge, absolutely massive, and definitely the largest Owen figure that we have had in the Jurassic World line that I can recall. So he's kind of cool, I guess, if you're into collecting Owens, and if you are, then boy, you must have been having a great time because Mattel has given us so many. Then we have our Pteranodon. Again, we have reviewed this figure in the past. Boy, look at that eye. That eye is terrible. That is definitely one of the ugliest looking paint jobs for the eye of any Mattel figure, honestly, that I've seen, but again, we've reviewed this figure in the past. It is no different from the previous one, so we don't really need to go over this one. I have a review up on the channel, a fairly recent review of this Pteranodon as well. I'll just basically show it off to you guys if you're interested in picking this set up and you don't have this one already. It's a decent looking Pteranodon. It's not even the Dominion release, which I find strange. This one was prior to the Dominion release, but it's an okay Pteranodon. Definitely not my favorite of the basics, and it's not the best Pteranodon we've had from Mattel. The sculpt is really nice, I will say that. Definitely very nicely resembles kind of like a JP3 style Pteranodon, and has some articulation, but the wings never work that well on these. They always pop out for me, see? Just like that. That's the only problem with the basic figure Pteranodons, I think. But outside of that, you do have leg articulation. You also have neck articulation, as well as jaw articulation, and that was probably the weirdest angle to show you that. We also have the Pyroraptor, which again, we have taken a look at this one. We've reviewed this one also recently because this is a brand new release for the Jurassic World Dominion line, and also one of the figures that kind of got me and Collect Jurassic in some hot water quite a while back as far as like posting images of it, but it's still a pretty cool figure, and again, having a new one here, another one, a second to include in my collection means I'll definitely be repainting it. You can also see that as far as articulation goes, arm articulation forward and back, leg articulation forward and back, and ankle articulation, which was really stiff. And then we also have the tail, which can articulate pretty much all over the place. So again, a pretty nice figure, but not the best Pyroraptor out. It is probably one of the best ones from Mattel, I will say that though. But you can check out a more thorough review of this figure again, as I have a full review up of this one on my channel. And same goes for this guy, the Dilophosaurus, which again is a figure that's been out for a very long time, kind of that Lockwood Manor style Dilophosaurus. So I do like it because it's so different, it's so unique compared to your normal GP style Dilophosaurus, which makes this one really fun. Has like a very different look to it compared to what you would normally see for a Jurassic Dilophosaurus. And you can also see that we do have the frill that comes out and extends, so that articulates, and it does look really nice. The only downside is the mouth is closed, and normally when it would have its frill extended, it would of course have the mouth open. And then you have the articulation here in the arms, as well as the legs, again the ankles, and then the tail. The tail can swivel on this one because it doesn't have any kind of like feathering or anything stopping it like the Pyroraptor did, but still a pretty cool figure, just not anything we need to take a look at. And then we get to our Atrociraptors, and the biggest problem with these guys is the fact that Mattel had not gone ahead and created any type of a new sculpt, any type of a new position. Every single one of these Atrociraptors are the same sculpt that they were ever since the initial Atrociraptor Ghost release, and we have had Ghost as well as Atrociraptor Red released prior, so we now can complete the entire group of Atrociraptors, which is really exciting. But again, sculpt-wise, we do not need to take a look at this. If you'd like to see a review of the sculpt of this one as well, again, check out the original Atrociraptor Ghost review, I believe was the first one. But as far as what's different is what we need to take a look at, and that would be the coloration. So you can see primarily we have kind of like a reddish brown for most of the figure, and that is definitely the primary body color. You can see that is really abundant through the entire figure. And then you start to have like some dark black, or actually more like dark brown stripes leading down here in the palate area. They also kind of circle and border around the eye there. You can see that we have a red eye, but it's almost like the same tone of color that we have for the primary body with the eye, and the pupil is pretty much the same tone of color that we have for that brown there that kind of circles around the eye. And then you lead back here, you start to have some of the striping running down the neck, and you can see it leads down into like the shoulder area and starts to kind of design down into the body a little bit. But then unfortunately it tapers off and is just totally gone. Like not even tapers off, it just leaves. It's gone entirely, and we have no coloration for the second half of the figure at all, which is definitely a downside. You can see that we have a really bright white for the lower jaw that kind of runs up here onto the lip of our Atrociraptor, and you can see it can kind of splotch and everything down here into the neck. It continues to run down. That white coloration totally engulfs the arms, although it's more of like a slightly different shade, almost bordering on a light gray for the arms. And then it leads down into the stomach region and then again disappears right after that. And we have none of that coloration leading out the second half of the figure. You can see there's no nail paint on either the hands nor the feet, not any type of a gloss coat or anything. It kind of has a glossy look, but the entire figure sort of has that look. So really cool to finally have a figure of Tiger, but it's just so random and weird that they gave it such an odd color choice, and it doesn't really look that great as far as the paint application goes either. I would say it's probably the worst out of all of the Atrociraptors as far as the paint scheme goes when it comes to the Mattel releases. And then we have Atrociraptor Panthera, and this one has kind of like a sort of like a variation of almost like a mustardish, yellowish brown type color here. You can see quite abundant through the face. You can also see that we have a dark brown on this one that kind of designs there around the palate, and then you can see it also circles around the eye and kind of stripes down from the eye, and also kind of spots here moving down the course of the neck, and you can also see two stripes of it here that lead down the neck as well. And then you also pick up on this lighter tone of color that starts to show up here in the throat region, and you can see it's kind of a very interesting light tone that kind of plays off of that yellowish tone quite nicely. Again, it actually does look pretty cool, but you can see that coloration actually takes over the majority of the underside of the figure. The entire legs, arms, everything are that type of a lighter tone of color, and then it kind of tapers off as we lead out here into the tail. Pretty abrupt transition right here, but I don't think it looks too terrible. And then the rest of the tail remains that kind of, yellowish type of a color that we have for the upper side. And there's definitely a speckling. You can see a very strong speckling on this one, which is a huge plus because it kind of adds just a slight bit of color difference to the figure as a whole, and definitely makes it look neat. And again, this one doesn't look too bad because of the fact that the color kind of changes throughout the body like this. It almost looks like the entire figure does have color. I would have, of course, liked to have seen more, but I don't know that I ever say anything different when it comes to a Mattel review, as they almost always need more paintwork to them. The eye, again, is the same color as the body, and then the pupil is the same color as the brown there around it, so a little bit of laziness as far as that goes. It does kind of appear to have a gloss coat for the eye, though, which is pretty nice, but no nail paint or anything like that. Again, kind of looks like there might be a slight gloss coat to the nails, but it's not anything that's obvious or really significant or anything like that. But that's really about it as far as the Panthera version goes. It looks nice, definitely nicer than Tiger, but neither of these are really amazing versions of the Atrociraptors from Dominion. Also, something I failed to mention when we were taking a closer look would be the articulation of these figures. You could see it's pretty much the standard as far as bipedal dinosaurs when it comes to the basic line. You could see we have the arm articulation, the leg articulation, and then you also have ankle articulation, also kind of stiff, and then you have the tail articulation. One thing about the newer ones, though, it doesn't seem like the tails swivel at all on these guys, whereas they used to on the older ones. But as far as like sizes or anything, comparisons, boy, that one's not going to stand now. There we go. As far as like sizes and comparisons and everything go, I don't feel like we really need to do any of those because we have measured all of these. We've reviewed all of the figures in the past. So any type of like a size comparison or anything at this point is just kind of redundant. A comparison, again, we should already have a pretty good idea of what the basic figures are size-wise, but there is one comparison that I do want to have on this here review, so let's go ahead and bring them in As the band is finally together, we have all of the different Jurassic World Dominion Atrociraptors, and not long ago, when I was reviewing Atrociraptor Red, I remember stating in that review that I really hope they release the other two so we can kind of complete the entire Atrociraptor pack, and thankfully Mattel did do that. I just wish they hadn't done it in that multi-pack because it's kind of a pain to have to buy so many other figures I already had just to get these two. I don't know if there will be a standalone release for these figures in the future. I wouldn't really look to that happening. I just feel like it's something that they won't do, but then again, they have done stranger things, so who knows, they may, and then I'll be kicking myself for buying this set, but either way, I'm really excited to actually have the entire group of Atrociraptors because I love the Jurassic World Dominion versions of the Atrociraptors, and actually having the entire, again, squad, the Atrociraptor squad here, is super awesome to finally, again, complete the set as far as these ones go. So this brand new Jurassic World Dominion 12-inch basic multi-pack from Kohls is definitely another fun set, but it's a really fun set for people that haven't been buying any of the basic figures. Not so fun for someone like me that has purchased a few, but that, again, like I've stated a few times, is for obvious reasons. But outside of the fact that I do already own numerous of these figures, the set as a whole is definitely really cool. There's a lot of beautiful figures included within, and I'm a huge fan of the basic figures because I just always think the sculpts look excellent on those figures. They're always really highly detailed. They're also quite large, which is a plus. The figures in general are much larger than your usual mainline figures from the Mattel line, and they also have a little bit less articulation, which sometimes I kind of like, and I'm not sure why, because it sort of has like a more of a model type look rather than a toy-like look, and that's something that I do enjoy from time to time. But again, the set sports quite a few different figures, as we have a Dilophosaurus, that sort of Lockwood Manor type Dilophosaurus, which again, sculpt-wise is fantastic. Like I said earlier, I have repainted this figure in the past. I gave it actually the Jurassic Park Dilophosaurus colors, and I thought it turned out really nice, so it's a really good candidate if you already have it and you buy this set to repaint. Trust me, it's going to look amazing because it has such beautiful detail and just a really cool, unique appearance, very different from your normal Jurassic Park style Dilophosaurus. The Pteranodon is okay. It's honestly probably the weakest figure out of this entire set, and yes, I would say it's even weaker than the Owen Grady figure, but it's just not really a nice color scheme. The color scheme's kind of lame. I'm not a huge fan of it. There's not much color to it. The sculpt is excellent, it really is, and this is another one that's a fantastic repaint choice because the sculpt is so highly detailed, and the Pteranodon is really large. Definitely a very big version of a Mattel Pteranodon, but as a whole, again, it's probably the weakest and kind of the ugliest figure included in this set. You also, of course, have Owen, who is everyone's favorite choice as far as a human figure goes, which we've had 14 million of already, and this, again, is my third of this particular Owen, but it is a really nice figure. As far as like an Owen Grady goes, it's actually a beautiful figure, very nice size, very nicely articulated, and actually nicely sculpted and painted. It's just not something that I wanted to purchase yet again. Then you've got the Pyroraptor, and the Pyroraptor is a gorgeous figure. I absolutely love the sculpt of this. I love the paint job as well. It is surprisingly nice. The only real downside to the Pyroraptor is the fact that it doesn't have quite those screen-accurate arms to it because the arm feathers are really small on the Mattel version, whereas they're obviously much larger on the Pyroraptor in Dominion. But, again, I actually should contact Rod's Random Work and see if he can kind of upsize the Pyroraptor arms that he's created for the normal Mattel line to see if maybe I could apply those arms to the basic version. That's actually a pretty good idea that I just thought about right now. So then I can repaint this and it'll look way cooler. And then the final additions would be the two Atrociraptors, as we have Panthera and Tiger finally here to enter the Mattel 12-inch basic line, and both are really cool, but again, each of the Atrociraptors are the exact same sculpts as the original one, which would have been Ghost, so it is kind of a little bit boring to continuously have the exact same figure just with different coloration, but at the same time, it is still awesome to actually have the entire Atrociraptor squad, even though the colors aren't all that perfect. I feel like tiger is definitely, again, the worst one because just the overall appearance and tones of color and everything are off for that figure. But as a whole, again, the fact that we finally have all of the Atrociraptors is insanely cool and definitely a very exciting aspect of this set. So if you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to the Kohls website where you can grab this set for yourself and get quite a few, again, 12-inch basic figures for your collection. So make sure you check that link in the description, go grab this really cool set, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.